Okay, so we're live on YouTube once again. Wow, I've had quite a busy day today. I'm still commuting kind of weekly between Brighton and Dorset, which is about 120 miles, 240 round trip, and enjoying it. It's like kind of weird for me, like having lived in spiritual community for like 17 years. In fact, it's for 17 years today since I came to live at Osho Lila, and now I'm kind of 5 days out and driving back and forth. It's kind of funny being back out in the real world. It's not super funny on account of I've been in London, Brighton quite a lot in the last few years, so it's not like I'm totally like a fish out of water. But I notice how much stuff costs, and how much you have to pay for stuff, and how life can be. Fuck man, you have to be quite, I don't know, kind of tough to really step up in a way and really focused and committed. I'm becoming more aware of that now that I'm back out in the real world for so much of a week and out of a kind of slight bubble I've been in. Let me just adjust this thing. So, that's kind of a learning curve, or like more a kind of, this is a time of integration for me when I'm coming out of living in community for so long. I'm back out in the real world with bills and, in a small space with my girlfriend and trying to get stuff together. It's kind of it's kind of fascinating. I haven't been running a ton of workshops. I'm running a weekly, I run some stuff here at the center, and then I run a weekly 1 hour free bioenergetics drop-in on the Brighton seafront. That's been kind of fun, kind of fucking crazy as well, going down there and teaching in my t-shirt, and there's been storms blowing the last few Friday nights I've been running it, but it's kind of fun. We do an hour, and if you get through an hour in that kind of weather conditions and the cold sometimes, then you get a huge charge from it, and then we go for a beer or two in the local pubs, and that's kind of fun. And I think that I kind of enjoy that, and so I don't mind doing it for free. And then I get a nice social hangout with a few people afterwards. And then, and I'm thinking, as we get through into the spring, that'll probably pick up a few extra people, a few more interested people will come along. And I'm looking forward to that and enjoying that, getting out there in the world teaching. Sunday, I'm running a bioenergetics one day in London, and that's booking up to nearly full now, which is cool. I've got a question. Mike Van Basten, what are your thoughts on Tantra? Yeah, Tantra's cool, man. The thing with, I've been living here in a center with a lot of Tantra going on for a long time. The thing with it is like no one really, there's so many things that are called Tantra. Pretty much anything can be called Tantra almost, in the kind of meditation and body therapy scene, so it's not really a clear thing. But, I think it's fundamentally a good thing, to get a bit more, certainly if you use it to get a bit more awareness around sex, sexuality and intimacy, then I think it's a good thing. I think it's fundamentally a good thing. I guess my favorite guru is Osho, being an Osho sannyasin. He is my number one, and he's a big tantric guru, basically. They used to say Osho was the craziest, the last in the line of a series of crazy tantric masters, or the last incarnation of the craziest one, something like that. And he certainly, rocked the earth in his own way. But I think Tantra's a pretty cool thing. I guess also, because I've been around the scene so much, I get a little bit jaded and negative about it at times. But now living more back out in the world again, it's pretty cool. Really, it's pretty cool. It's nice to have a space where you can be more inside yourself and intimate and get deeper with people. And like I say, Tantra also covers a lot of bases. That word covers a lot of bases. But one of the things I notice about just slowly, coming more and more inside my own body is the level of pleasure that you can get from this stuff, from sex and just slight sexual interactions or whatever, Before, when I was younger, I was so in my head, with sex. It was all in my head, all of it, and I think kind of a society we live in kind of pushes us a bit in that direction. But it's like what I see a lot of people in life are overlooking the fact they've got this incredible kind of palace or temple inside, and they're totally overlooking it, and they're living in this this garbage heap of a thinking mind, you know, trying to make life work and trying to do this and trying to get that and trying to get this and there, like all that running around. And I still do plenty of it myself. You know, it's totally overlooking something huge that you have inside of you. And, you know, that's just where our lives are at the moment, you know, where our culture and society is at. Also used to say that Tantra would flower in the UK and then blossom in America. That was his kind of prediction. I don't know if it'll come true. The thing with America is, you know, it often projects an image of a lot of sexuality, you know, out through the media and stuff like that, you know. But in reality, of course, there's a lot of Bible Belt bashing, and, you know, it's not, Tantra is not, and sexuality is really a very big taboo in America, you know, in many ways, pretty much as it is in a lot of Arab countries or something like that, you know. So it's kind of a weird thing, is that because the culture is so based on selling, of course, there's sex everywhere on the media, you know, particularly how America meets the rest of the world. But, you know, in reality, you know, there's a phenomenal level of sexual repression there as well. Anyway, if anyone's got a question you're watching, do let me know. My daily practice, I'm going to do, I saw a lot of people like this Boss Beast workout I put up last week, and I'm planning to do another number 2 of those, which will even be even more of a motherfucker, basically. I had a new little level into the intro, so that's going to be 5 stages. And I was kind of field testing that the other day on myself, and it certainly gives it another little kick up. You know, it's like it's incredible shit, this bioenergetics, when you really start to get into it. You know, I can wake up, I'm 58 years old, quite grunchy in my mind, and then I do a 1-hour workout or something like this, and I'm just pouring with energy and fucking positivity and stuff. It's quite amazing, you know. And I come from a background of a lot of trauma and shit and low self-esteem and everything, so it kind of still does my head in each day how much you can shift with a session of bioenergetics. So I'm planning to put more of these longer sessions online for people to follow, you know, 45 minutes, 60-minute stuff. And it can move a fuck of a lot. I mean, doing it in a group is even more powerful. Doing a weekend is even more powerful. But still, you know, it's even on following along on YouTube. Once you get the hang of it, you can really shift a lot. You know, it's mind-blowing stuff. I mean, one of the sort of things I notice is that even though I get more energy, it's kind of sometimes a lot of that energy just gets sent into the phone, into trading stuff I've been busy with recently and things, and not always making the best use of my time. But like someone who's got all this kind of capability but doesn't really I don't always make the best use of my time. It's something I see, and I do need to pick myself up on that sometimes. But, you know, it's stunning, you know, to me, just how much potential there can be in something which is hidden pretty much in plain sight. And that is the kind of would love to see a long workout video for working with the pelvis, psoas, sex energy. Yeah, man. Yep, I will get that together. Now that I've got my new studio in my new flat, not here, you've probably seen it if you watch my local recent videos. And I've got a couple of lights and a tripod to put my phone on and stuff. You know, I didn't get a proper camera yet, but the phone cameras are so good these days. They're pretty much good enough. I'm going to start doing more long workouts. Like, I'm going to do at least 1 a week. You know, that's my intention that I want to commit to, because I'm teaching them all the bloody time here in the center, but I'm not, and often creating them intuitively in the moment of it. But I'm not, you know, they're not out on YouTube yet. Most of the stuff is shorter, and these long workouts are really a fucking gift. You know, I mean, Jesus, you can really start to clear stuff, and we can do some pelvic stuff for sure. You need a nice firm mattress or a firm bit of carpet to do the pelvic work on, that I know, but it can be very, very, you know, liberating. So much kind of, you know, sexual repression in our culture just comes in from every level. And then there is this wild man or wild woman inside, you know, locked in the pelvis, just wants to go out and have a good fucking time. And, you know, somewhere the religion and the capitalist society or whatever just conspires to just keep that all locked in. So everyone's in a state of kind of pent up sexual, you know, frustration for most of their fucking lives, you know. And You know, there's always this part inside that's untamed and fucking wild that wants to come out. Women just as much as men, if not more, you know, in my experience. But the culture just don't want to let it out. And then all this fear develops around it, because when you don't, you know, when you don't live out a part of yourself for a long time, of course there's fear, you know, of course fear accumulates in your mind. So, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. But then it always, you know, the sexuality always haunts the unconscious more than anything. You know, it sits in there and it pulls you into all this fantasy stuff or whatever. But underneath it, you know, everyone just wants to act out, at least have, you know, not that you have to do it all day long, but have a space where you can just act out that sexual craziness, you know, and just really fucking go for it, you know. I see, you know, I've got buddies in the pickup scene and that kind of thing, and they, you know, they do this thing where they go up to women and start, you know, having conversations and different things and engaging them and stuff like that. But I know underneath it, all the guys doing that, bottom line is they want to go up and just really be fucking sexual with the women, basically, you know, and find a way to put that out, you know, to really, to live that, you know. It's like on some level there's that is the primary fantasy, to truly live your sexuality, you know, for men and women. It's one of the real primary fantasies. And the way the society kind of constructs it somewhere is that you always have a vision that someone who's super rich and good looking is doing it all and getting it all, when probably they're actually fucking not at all. And you're just stuck there getting whatever scraps are left over. That was my perception growing up in the 70s and 80s anyway. And I dare say it's not a vast amount different now. You know, society changes, but sexuality hasn't changed that much, I don't think. You know, in fact, if anything, people are more confused about it. I mean, masculinity is like, people are fucking terrified of masculinity. You know, the American Psychiatric Association. So I was listening to a friend of mine, and then I heard Elliot Hulse say it as well, you know, have said basically that masculinity is wrong. You know, it's the cause of all the problems. You know, I mean, what kind of fucking crazy shit are these guys up to, you know? Yeah, friend zone. Well, friend zone is also cool. You know, there's nothing wrong with friend zone. You know, there's nothing wrong with women. I run men's groups, and a lot of guys coming expecting there to be negativity about women. There's nothing wrong with women, you know. But the fact is, you know, if she's just put you in the friend zone, but you don't want to be in the friend zone, you want to be in the fuck zone, basically, then, you know, it's the way you're approaching also, or maybe just your energy or whatever. Most guys are just fucking terrified to approach women in a sexual way. You know, it's simple as that. And so we develop the nice guy persona, and then, you know, yeah, we find ourselves getting in the friend zone with all these hot looking women or whatever. But of course, none of them are remotely sexually interested in us. And even more frustrating, they usually they'll start telling the guys in the friend zone all about the guys that they fantasize about, or fancy or whatever, or having a hard time with getting, you know, and the guy in the friend zone's getting more and more pissed off with it all. And you know, and then it often goes into negativity towards women, which I think is not necessary or healthy. You know, it's not to do with the women. It's to do with the guys not being fucking honest. You know, simple as that. If you want sex, it's not that you have to go up to women and say, I want to fuck you, but you have to at least communicate sexually. If all you're doing is playing the nice guy act, then what you get is what you deserve. And it's as simple as that. You know, it's as simple as that. How to start bridging that gap from within. Yeah, practical reality. I always advise the two-pronged approach, you know, to take a bit more risks, just communicating, meeting and meeting women. But also, you know, when your male energy starts to come up more, you know, you do the belly work, you do the bow and the arch, you do pelvic work in bioenergetics. You know, when you want to, you can just radiate a bit more raw masculinity, you know. That's all you really need. It's not pretty or beautiful, but it's raw, and women will be attracted to that. It's primal, you know, and it's real as well. It's not some personality that you've kind of learned online and are trying to project outwards, or learned in some pickup groups. You know, the pickup groups are okay to get over some of the shyness, but what you want to do is feel like you're a fucking guy. If you want to attract women, mostly you need to feel like you're a fucking man. And yes, in today's world, that's risky, but that's the nature of it. That's the nature of it. You know, this, you know, you got to get the belly moving a bit. So you got this raw male side, you know, that's like, it's not been changed, you know, Iron John kind of stuff. You know, it hasn't been changed. It doesn't give a fuck about nice things. It's got that raw kind of animal side. And when you develop that, you'll find that women are attracted, you know. The other ways, which are not quite so straight, is to get in a position of power Women often attracted to power. It's simple as that. But also that can create trouble. That can create trouble. Women want to feel some chemistry and some energy. In my personal experience, I'm not a woman, but that has been my experience. They want to feel that kind of energy and chemistry. And if all you're doing is being Mr. fucking nice guy, it's pretty fucking dull, basically, for women. If you're a pretty woman, you probably get all these nice guy fucking twats coming up to you all the time, trying to, somehow engage you in conversation. And they want to ask you out, or they want to get close. And probably after a while, if you're a woman, you think, fuck this bullshit. Let's just freeze these twats out and do the old ice goddess routine or whatever. All you need to do as a man is find yourself. That's got to be the focus. If you're focusing on how do I change myself to get women, you're not coming from a good place. You're not going to get respect from women. You're not going to get it. They'll respect you when they see that you're being real, you're being who you are, that you're not just following some kind of learned behavior to try and get women. You're just being yourself. That is what is attractive at the end of the day. TMOX. Hi. Hey, man. Hey. See you around my channel quite a bit. Nice you're checking in. But this is what it's about. And it's, what's kind of cool in a way is that, like, I've been listening to, Dr. Robert Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy recently. I have to drive quite a bit at the minute, so I stick it on my Bluetooth, in the car. And I'm learning stuff from that as well. I mean, a lot of that I'd kind of worked out a bit myself in some of my YouTube videos before I'd even heard about the book, but he's gone deep into it. And what's kind of interesting, he's really articulated the problem, and you need that somewhere. Because for a lot of guys, they're not even aware that it exists. They're not even aware that an issue exists. They think just being a nice guy is okay. And even though their life is shit, if they're honest about it, they just keep on doing the program. And until someone really articulates that and sticks it out in a format, of course, people just aren't aware of it. Guys just aren't aware of it. And then, what's happening in the UK is No More Mr. Nice Guy groups start to spark up. There's a good one in London run by a guy called Rowan, and there's another one in Brighton run by a guy called Harvey, and they're just, and they're places where men can meet up and to start to get a bit more fucking real, basically. And there's workshops getting run. I'm running something called Project Man, where you really work on your male side, getting into the belly and also at a heart level as well. But what's happening for a lot of guys is the belly is too scary. The rawness of sexuality is too scary for them, and they just want to do the heart thing. And they feel good, and they get in the friend zone with women a lot, but they're not getting what they want sexually at all. And then that's the big Y junction. It comes, okay, do I have the guts to go into the male side, or just do I keep doing playing the friend zone thing, just hoping it's going to work out, And somewhere, you have to have the guts to go towards the male side and to try and move into the rawness and the gut level energy, And for me, bioenergetics is the fastest route. Also, some emotional expression helps, but those as therapies are the fastest way into the male side, And I think if you're a guy, it's fine to develop your heart, it's fine to develop your feminine side, but if you haven't developed your masculine side first, I mean, it's like, what's the fucking point, really? You've got to get the male side going. And then, yes, you can be more sensitive and heartful, for sure. But if you don't have that raw male energy, if you can't access it yet, for me, that should be your primary focus. And like anything, when you focus on it, then it starts to come. In fact, often the universe starts to kind of even open up and facilitate it a bit for you, or it seems to do that, So that, that's my advice to people, really. That's my advice to people, because, you don't live for fucking ever, I was like, when I was a teenager and stuff, I was chronically shy, and through my 20s, I just drink tons of alcohol to try and get off with women, and it totally didn't fucking work, but I kept on doing it. And it wasn't until my early 50s that I was just suddenly single again and could just be utterly promiscuous and just shag around like crazy, seeing about 7 women at the same time, being open about it as well. I was very happy that I could burn that part out of my system a bit. I don't know if I've totally burned it out yet, but quite a lot, So it is redemptive, no matter what age you are, if you want it, you can still get up and fucking do it, you can find a way. Anyway, let me check the chat and be a bit more professional. Guppy, how often should you do bioenergetics and like program it, which things to do, etc.? Well, I know, ideally, if you can do something daily, that's the best, even if it's only like 10 minutes, And if you're not, you can always get in touch with me and do a one-to-one session. It costs a little bit of money over Skype, or come to a workshop. But otherwise, you can always start with a bow and arch, because that's the most basic exercise in bio, and it starts to open up and clear a lot of anxiety from the body. A lot of anxiety from the body, and somewhere underneath it all, anxiety is such a big problem in our culture, particularly for men. I mean, women also. It's some people have just cut off from themselves. They don't even feel the anxiety. They're just in this kind of weird, disconnected state. But a lot of people are in this anxious zone, and it's not very satisfying. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also real. It is where they're at. And then from there, you can use the bow and arch to start to clear the anxiety. I actually made a video, Guppy, a couple of, not that long ago. Someone asked me maybe a week ago about getting started with the bow and arch. And that's got some good beginner's advice in it, I think. So feel free to check that out on my YouTube channel. Okay, Mr. Long Name. Hi again. I've heard that in order to have your power, which is your aggression, you've got to be okay with having your power. Yeah, you've got to be okay with that gut-centered, raw side of yourself. And it's not really aggression necessarily. It's just like a raw animal force, like you see an animal. It doesn't have you can see by the way it moves, it doesn't have a higher mind thinking about everything all the time. A tiger is not walking around the jungle like thinking about how other animals perceive it, or being worried about if the other tigers want to fight it or fancy it. It's just raw. It's just in the moment, and you have to befriend that side of yourself. And that can be a journey in today's world. It's not necessarily you just flick a switch somewhere and it happens. It doesn't work like that for most people. But you need to find that raw animal. Survival energy is another way of looking at it. When I work directly with anger and with heavy emotions like that, I often try and guide people into a survival state. So the feeling is like you're cornered and you got to shout for your fucking life. You have to be willing to go into those survival emotions inside of you, if you want to create rapid change. And you can also go around the houses if that's too scary and still get there. That's also okay. That's also okay. But yes, you're quite right, my man. You have to, you got to be okay with this raw feeling inside of you. If you're a man, the raw feeling of masculinity. If you're a woman, that raw female feeling. You've got to be okay with that. And if you've got too many judgments and fears about it, you've got to find a way to go through that rather than keep on avoiding, Hip thrust and triple opener. Would you normally say to do these before or after bow and arch in a session? Any difference? I don't think there's a huge difference. They're great practices. All of them. I think you can do it either way, When you're new with the hip thrust or triple opener, the bow and arch can be quite good to integrate some of that stuff afterwards. It's a bit more integrative because the way it moves the energy in the back. So I'd probably go more that way round, the way you've written it there, starting with hip thrust or triple opener and then going into bow and arch. And I'm also teaching, I'm also adding, if you I think you're a regular subscriber to my channel, this bow cobra dog arch. I'm going to add an extra pose to that tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get the time to make a video in between clients and do another 45-minute video with an extra part of that, and probably put the hip thrusting, that kind of primal thing into it. That's also great for getting this belly and this sense of having the right to get what you need in life. It's a very primal feeling. A lot of people reporting all sorts of good stuff from that. Housemate came in talking a ton, missed that, will rewatch, but just give me a quick this first, that next answer. Yeah. Basically I think normally good to probably start with the hip thrust or a triple and then go to the bow and arch, basically, just to summarize. It's also not vitally important. Once you're experienced with those exercises, you can do them either way round. It's just that the bow and the arch integrates a bit more. So the stuff you stir up by getting into that gut level feeling, you can also let it flow and integrate within your being, within your body when you do the bow and arch afterwards. Okay, so got a few people online. If anyone's yeah, no worries, man. So if anyone's got a question, do feel free to put it out. we have a bit more time. So, you know, and people often write to me and are appreciative that someone asked a question because they had the same question but were a bit scared to put it out, or, you know, they tuned in later and watched the video. If you're watching and you want to get your male side really going, you know, if you're turned on to the idea, come for Project Man. Next one's at the beginning of May in Brighton in the UK, fun city as well. So check that out on my website, Project Man. That's what you want to do. And then we'll have some fun as well. And you also get to learn a lot of bioenergetics, meet a lot of other great guys who are also into stepping up and really clearing out the shit from childhood and being awesome out in the world, you know. What's interesting I see is that from my groups often, you know, people make very close connections, deep connections. And so, you know, there's WhatsApp groups that started from my workshops, like a workshop like a year ago, and the guys are still in contact a year later. Because I think the way I see it out in the world, you know, it's like, shit, you could be living in a town and you've got to use loads of the usual kind of friends and workmates, but none of them are really interested in really looking at themselves or stepping up. It's great to come to a workshop, yeah, for the workshop, but also for meeting other like-minded people. It's really a boon. It's really a plus, eh? Okay, a couple more questions. Speaking of bioenergetics, I discovered that I'm the type that only feels if someone else touches me. So I've had this series of massages. I'm at 8 now. Cool, man. When I breathe, when they massage my head, I can feel my whole body vibrate. But after a while, it fades away. I can't release my neck or the head area. It doesn't matter how much bioenergetics I do. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the reality is with all of this kind of therapy is we become, you know, the first thing is we become aware of the blocks, you know, we become aware of the blocks. And, you know, and sometimes you can work quickly with them or find someone, you know, that can clear that. And sometimes it just takes time. And sometimes we just have to keep on feeling it, you know, just have to keep on feeling that discomfort and the feelings that come up around it, you know, knowing this block is there. You know, reality is a lot of people are just out in the world, you know, having their life and drinking their booze and smoking their weed and doing all their stuff. And they're totally disconnected from their body, but they're in a kind of almost bliss state because they don't know, you know, they know their life's a bit fucked up. But, you know, the first step often when you start to do work on yourself is you start to get these aha moments with like, Jesus, I'm totally not stepping up to myself. I'm not facing myself here. You know, God, my work is shit. I'm pissed off of it. I hate my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you know. So the first thing is often these aha moments that come in quite strong, you know, and we become aware of areas in our body that are really tense, or areas where we're really just backing down on ourselves in life, you know, where we're scared to talk about or go into the situations that are happening. I'm quite new to this, but I sometimes find myself holding my breath unintentionally and it creates anxiety. Do you have any videos on this? I mean, working with the belly, GC will help, you know, and, you know, don't beat yourself up for it. Like I said to the last chap just now, you know, the first step usually is becoming aware of a block, becoming aware of an issue. And then it's like, okay, sitting down and saying, what practically, how can I work to overcome this block without pushing myself too hard, but making progress? So I would recommend, you know, breathing down into the belly. The reality is like probably 99% of humanity is holding their breath way too fucking much. You know, they don't just let it out, you know, that's probably the reality anyway, you know. So, you know, don't compare yourself too much. You're just one of the people, one of the rare people, one of the 1% who's become aware of it, you know, who's become aware of it. And yes, it will ramp up the anxiety because if we lock up the throat, then it kind of goes around in a kind of acceleration curve, you know. It creates anxiety. Once you can breathe more down and feel into your belly, you know, a lot will start to shift. And you just need to work at that. It does not matter how big you are. It does not matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If you just work at it, you know, it will start to come. You work at it regularly, ideally on a daily basis. Okay, let's check in some of this chat. Have you heard of Reggie Ray? I have a feeling the name does have cross, but I don't know him. Buddhist teacher in the States who teaches somatic meditation. I think he'd be a great analog. Yeah, I'll check that out, man. I'll try and check that out sometime. People often talk to me about somatic re-experiencing. I haven't really researched it, but I know it's a kind of it's more of a crossover between, you know, body stuff and psychotherapy, you know, and I think that stuff is great, you know. I'm kind of out there operating a bit in the unknown areas, you know, but the reality is you also need a load of people who are going to bridge that and bring it out to the mainstream a bit more and bring it out to other people, you know. I don't know if I completely understand what you mean with masculine energy. Well, it's okay, man. You know, you don't have to understand everything. It's more like a feeling, you know. If you're going into your head to try and interpret and understand, you're moving in the opposite direction in a sense. You know, you're moving in the opposite direction. It's more like a feeling in your gut, a raw feeling, you know, a raw feeling as a man, a raw feeling as a man. It's very raw. If you're thinking a lot, try to just breathe and feel into your belly. You know, I'm using words because we use words to communicate, but it's more of a feeling thing, you know. So you don't need to go into associations. That's all the kind of mind stuff, you know. We learn often as kids because the world's so mind orientated now, thought orientated, you know. We try and learn everything through thinking about it. But when you get into this kind of bioenergetic body stuff, you're coming down underneath that thinking mind into the raw kind of primate and primal sensations, you know, which sometimes our mind has a lot of judgments about. But, you know, that's where all the energy and power is, you know. Reminds me, you know, when I'm doing men's groups, sometimes I use this thing called when I've got a lot of nice guys, you know, we do this hooligan meditation. No, the hooligan meditation, man, it's fucking classic, because it is the case that with a lot of nice guys, they get depressed a lot, and the reason is that, you know, by cutting off so many of the ranges of male behaviors, yes, you've created a nice personality that cares about the world and people and women and stuff, but you've castrated yourself energetically, you know, and sometimes just using these raw exercises where you connect with the inner hooligan. I've seen guys who've been nice guy, like for 20 years in nice guy, you put them in the hooligan structure in 5 minutes, they're ready to kick off with anybody. And their energy just ramps up through the fucking ceiling. You know, I have to get the staff to make sure they don't fucking attack someone, you know. It's like, it's so close to the fucking surface. It's so close to the surface for male energy. And that's the, you know, that's one channel, and it's raw, and it's very easy for British and European males to connect into, essentially the hooligan. You know, it's there, particularly in Northern Europe, particularly in the UK and Germany, Russia. You know, it's very, very primal in our genes some way. I'm mixed race myself, and that's one way you can connect into that side. You know, it's you know, I have guys even saying, "I'll come to your workshops again, just do the hooligan structure." I have to do it. You know, they can't sort of bear to go to football and do it themselves. You know, you want a structure to do it, which is also okay. Because, you know, it's not actually about beating people up or anything. It's about reaccessing that side that is just very vital, you know. Literally, people come out of that stuff and their energy levels ramped up 10 times, 100 times sometimes for people. It's fascinating, you know. Yeah, yeah. You find out about masculine energy, you know, you find out about it, you know, when you get down in the body and start to feel, you know. It's not really to do with women at all, you know. People tend to see things in opposites and balances, and women of course have a masculine side, and men of course have a feminine side, but you know, it's the rawness of it. It's coming out of any judgments, worries, preconceptions, just going into that raw male primate, you know. It's grounded, you know, and it's got that slight edge to it. It's got the edge, and the edge is where women traditionally get attracted. You know, that's why women, you see so many of them, you know, no matter what they say, you know, the guys they fantasize about are those tattooed bad boys or fucking Prison Break or something like that, you know, because that's how the sexuality works. It's not, thankfully, it's not under control from the higher mind, you know. Sexuality gets up there, but it's not under control from there, you know. If you talk to women about, you know, just sincerely, and because I've been in the tantra scene for years, you know, I have talked to a lot of women, you know, and if you talk to them about the kind of men that they would masturbate or fantasize about, it ain't going to be no nice guys. I still haven't met a woman who would fantasize sexually about nice guys. You know, I just haven't met one, you know, if they're honest, you know. It's all about being taken. It's all about bloody predators and bad boys and tattoos and that dark masculine side. You know, and that's not to say that that's the only aspect of masculinity that's valid, but that is the reality of sexual chemistry in the midbrain, basically. You know, and no matter how many thoughts you ever have, it's not going to be able to change that, because it's underneath that, you know, it's raw. Until you can actually migrate the whole human personality onto a USB stick, then you could change it. Whilst you've got a body, you won't be able to change that, because just the hierarchy in the brain, you know. So, you know, I see a lot of, I'm not really against the kind of ways that genders are being redefined in our society. I'm not really against it in any way, you know. I think it's quite nice to experiment with gender and fluidity and stuff. But at the same time, if you can't access, you know, your primary gender to the fullness, then I would do that first and then get fluid, you know. Do you have the hooligan exercise in your channel? No, I don't. No, I don't. You know, I won't go into it. You have to come to a group sometime if you're intrigued. But of course, you know, it is that raw energy. You know, I was brought up in that fucking energy in the 80s. You know, with guys, you know, down the pub. Saturday is the day of freedom. You know, get down the pub early at 12, get wasted with the guys. You know, and then they all. I was never a super big hooligan myself. Never a big hooligan. I hung around with a few. I was a punk for a long time, and there was a whole gang of sort of punkish hooligans and stuff. You know, and then you know, you go out from the pub, walking towards a football game, bushwhack and ambush a few other kind of football fans, and it gets really kicks off and stuff, and people are, you know, it's that raw male side. You know, it haunts the unconscious, because, you know, it's just a big part of masculinity, unfortunately, or fortunately, or however you want to look at it. But, you know, done in a proper, safe way, the hooligan structure can ramp male energy up through the roof very, very quickly. And people come out of it like Jesus, you know. Usually the biggest nice guys just love it. They just love it. Once they can get their heads around it, which takes them a couple of minutes, you know. Is it okay to do this? Is it really okay to do this? You know, it's quite incredible. You know, underneath it all is that desire for confrontation. But it's a key element of the male side. And yes, you have to be careful with these energies, and you have to manage them. That's why, you know, we create a safe space when myself and the staff, when we're running Project Man, you know, so that you can go into that side and feel okay. And you're doing it with other guys who are also struggling with that side, or they've got their own stuff, you know. They're caught up in the tough guy instead, you know, and can't allow themselves to feel. But I guess if you're intrigued by hooligans, you can go and look it up on YouTube, or just start going to football or something. But I think they, you know, the closed circuit TV, the CCTV is kind of banned it all nowadays. Is there any differences in the exercise that men and women should do? In bioenergetics, I'd say largely not. There's certainly some exercises which women seem to find easier, and some which men seem to find easier a little bit. I guess, you know, for the average client, I usually start them off with a bow and arch, and then we go from there and we see what comes up. And, you know, you can look at specific, it's more to do with, you know, your underlying psychology. You know, if you've become hardened and controlling, you know, then there's one kind of approach from body-based psychotherapy. And if you've become kind of overly nice and scared of confrontation, then there's a subtly different kind of approach. It depends a little bit on the therapy I'm teaching, but with bioenergetics, I'd say 95 to 99% is the same for men or women, really. And I find women in particular really can love bioenergetics. I tend to teach it more as a kind of a workout, and I think because I think in our culture women have been held back a lot. You know, I think men have also been held back a lot, even though it is patriarchal. But women have been held back a lot, and there is I see in women, you know, even when they've got blocks, suddenly there's like a huge spark of life, and they just get really turned onto it. It's like, fuck, I can do this shit. You know, I often finish sessions with, you know, arms in the air, shaking and screaming out positivity. You know, I can do it. You know, and women tend to really get into that. You know, it's like somewhere the woman has a very raw, vital, beautiful energy. You know, and it's just been suppressed. But for a lot of women, it doesn't take so long for that to come bouncing back out again, and they feel really vibrant and empowered. I think underneath the surface of the patriarchy, men are very afraid of women, and so they've just tried to control them for years. You know, and it is exciting. You know, when you're a therapist, you're the kind of person that likes to liberate people, basically. So I usually get quite a lot of women coming to my groups, not to men's groups, obviously, but you know, a lot of women get interested in this stuff. and it can create a lot of change. But generally, there's not very many differences between the exercises that men and women do as a rule. So, guys, if you've got another question, do feel free to just stick it out. Any kind of a question, I don't mind. I'm actually running, I mean, I feel weird almost talking about it, but I'm running a women's group next month, with 2 female staff members, called Women Say No. Because as I started running men's groups, women were coming up to me and saying, "So why don't you run a women's group for empowerment?" So I thought, yeah, why not? It had never really crossed my mind rather. But I thought, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. It's great. It's so exciting when you're a therapist, seeing someone who is caught up in a lot of good girl, nice guy kind of behavior, and they're really not working for them, and they're ready to let it go, and they just come out of a session completely empowered, and like, yeah, I can fucking do it. They're just, the energy's pouring out of them. There's so much energy inside the human body. No matter how old you are, there's so much locked in there, but it's all just being held in this control matrix from our higher mind. When you start to open that up and it comes out, it's like, wow. It's like just a big wow. And it always feels really, I don't know, great for me, to see the change in people after a session or a weekend workshop. See, they just look so different, and their whole attitude and energy has shifted so much. It's so rich, working with the body. It's so rich. It's tragic in many ways. There's not more of it, and there's not more recognition of it, where our society is at. So much that can be transformed. So I wouldn't say super quickly, but bit by bit, and you get ongoing benefit the whole time. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to Sunday. I got a workshop in London, and I'm just kind of thinking, am I going to really sort of kick it, or I'm thinking to make things a little bit more, not so much gentle, but put in more time for questions and for integration and that kind of thing at the end. Sometimes I run one-day workshops a little bit pedal to the metal to give people a really powerful experience. And then sometimes I'm left, or people contact me afterwards and say, wow, I needed a little bit more downtime or something like that. So I'm looking about it to make a few changes maybe, or usually what I do is just simply rock up in the group room and feel the people a bit, chat a bit, and have a little bit of discussion and get a feeling of intuitively where people can move to, or maybe people have got a clear idea of what they'd like to achieve from the session anyway. So it becomes a kind of collaboration in a sense. Okay, guys, we're up past 40 minutes now. If you've got a question, do stick it out. I'm going to give it a few more minutes. Feel free, by the way, to get in touch if you've got any kind of questions, or I always answer questions by like voice message, so you can always Facebook message me or something like that, and I give a little voice message. It's cool. And I'm also doing a lot of one-to-one sessions these days, and I charge £40 UK pounds for 45 minutes, but I try to give as much as I can in information or exercises. And it can be really great. Several people take me on a weekly or monthly basis, so they got some accountability and some development, and they can discuss the stuff that's coming up. And I kind of started with Skype sessions about 3 years ago, and I was even thinking like, how the fuck do you teach this stuff over Skype? But over those years, I've developed it quite a bit, so to the point where people can get quite a lot of useful stuff from a session, and committing to a series can really start to help move people through stuff. And it's quite nourishing and interesting for both of us to work together via Skype. It could be somewhere different in the world. So, if you turned on to that, just drop me a line sometime. How to work with negative self-beliefs like I'm a loser. Well, there's a lot of that about, hey? There's a lot of that about. The first thing I usually do with people is to point out that negative self-image, negative self-beliefs, low self-esteem, these things are all protections. That's usually the first thing to say, because from that you can start to understand it a bit more. But we adopt these strategies often as kids because of stuff going on around us. Maybe our perception of our parents, they were too critical and we couldn't just be ourselves. And so we learn to kind of shrink a little bit and hide away inside ourselves, and then that's where this low self-esteem often comes from, not feeling good enough. The first thing to understand, that's a protection. Yeah, it's a sign that you need to change stuff. Yeah. I mean, in bioenergetics, you can work a lot around the shoulders and the shoulder blades. In the bow, you can really stretch, because curiously enough, it's often these muscles around here that get affected by low self-esteem, because there is a kind of almost a shrinking energetically, if not physically. There's other stuff you can do to release childhood, like you can look up the teenager release, working with the shoulders, getting this area, starting to loosen it up. And then, and then, you got to take risks, because low self-esteem is a protection. It's saying, I'm not good enough is a way you don't go for the best job. You don't go for the best partner. You don't go for the friendships with people who are super popular and powerful or rich, who you'd love to be friends with. You don't go for that because you've got low self-esteem. It's a protection. That's what it is. It's a psychological defense mechanism. So you have to start practically little by little to take risks and drop it. Give yourself challenges, that are practical, or join a group with other people who are stepping up, so you come out of the comfort zone in a way that you can manage, and also in a way that you can stay in your body and do it. A little message. I do remember a lot of times in my youth when I wished it was okay to fight someone, but I usually shut it down with something like, "That's not okay. It's not okay." Yeah, that's it. It's fucking hard being a guy in the world. It's fucking hard. It's like, it's not like I totally support hooliganism or something like that, but also, there is something in the male energy where they want to confront, because it gives us such an energetic rush through our system. And you can't do something with your mind which is going to give you the same rush. It's difficult, I like working with this bioenergetics and with confrontational therapeutic process, because it works in a healthy way with the same stuff, In Project Man, you do stuff. We do an exercise where, once you've got your body a bit more open and you're feeling in your power a bit, you face off with other guys like a meter apart, and you scream at each other like fuck, you really, and you're each allowed to project all the negative men who've tried to judge you or control you, your dad, friendships, whatever, bosses, onto the other man. He's doing the same to you, and you put it out from your belly, you really let them have it, no physical contact, just screaming out, and that gives a huge release. It's got the same kind of energy as fighting. It's got the same kind of energy as physical fighting, but you get a deeper release and a stronger kind of connection between your belly and your throat. This is what you want as a guy. You want to get a connection between the gut and the throat. And yeah, for sure. But it's challenging. Of course it's challenging. Of course it's challenging in today's world. Fuck, man. It's fucking challenging. There's very little support for guys. But it is out there. And somewhere, if we just blame the world, of course, that also doesn't change anything, It's also a protection. Cool, guys. Thank you for the questions, guys. Thank you. I'm appreciative. It's nice to have questions, and some really cool questions there. So, take it on also, because, once you start to notice some stuff about yourself you're not happy with, actually, it's your responsibility to start to work on it. So many people, they see this about themselves, but so what can I do about it? Or, I'll deal with it later. No, don't do that. That's a lesson for me as much as anybody else. It's a lesson for me as much as anybody else. If you see stuff, don't sit on it. Look practically for a way forwards, and this is really all you need to do in life. People make such a big drama out of being successful or having the life they want. Step by step, you step up little by little, and slowly it gets easier. There's hard times, there's easy times. You keep on moving. And like that, you come to the end of your life and you feel like, I fucking lived, I fucking did it. You don't want to come to the end of your life and be there like, oh, God, what have I done? Like, fuck that, Doesn't matter how old you are now, you can get up and have a fucking great life, but you have to take a position for it. So, just do it. Finally, we can all just do it, and we can all support each other, and we can all move forward and be the most awesome people that's imaginable. It can totally happen. Any last questions, guys? And I'm very happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm gonna let it go, and I'll see you all next week. Let's give it another minute. You know, we can fucking do this. You know, we can do it. It's as simple as that. So much comes down to just saying yes, you know, and getting that support. Cool, man. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm going to give it 30 seconds if anyone's got a desperate last question. Otherwise, I will let you guys go and I will shoot off. Had some nuts. I don't know if I need any dinner, but I'll see. I might have an early night, or I might pop out for a drink with a buddy. Yeah, man. Cheers, Gibberer. No worries, guys. Okay, guys. Love you all. Let's get it together and really keep stepping up. Keep doing it. If you see stuff that you know you need to work on, take a step. Take a step. Write it down. Write it down now. Write down the first step that you need to take and own it. And keep taking one step at a time. And we're all going to get there. I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.